Nope, I'll just make the video unless it's in there. Anyways, it's July 25th, 2026. This is just a random, not thought out at all review for Radiant Star. Oh, now he wants to get up. I had Mr. Lupin, the little adorable kitty, sitting on my lap this whole time. Now he decides to move as soon as... Okay. I don't actually know where the book is at the moment, because I put it somewhere that I thought was obvious. Is it up here? Let me go look. You can just describe what it is, like just general Imperial Ratchness. Radiant Star is one of the standalone novels set in the Imperial Ratch universe. It is completely standalone, and I assume, because I have not read it yet, I haven't read any of the standalone novels, and I probably won't be anytime soon. On the bookshelf, the spine is yellow, not blue. So oh, okay. Expecting blue. So I assume it's set sometime after the Imperial Ratch trilogy. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, we found the book. The spine's yellow. Okay, yeah, I was looking for blue. Here's the book. The cover's blue. Spine is yellow. Is that dirt on it? Or is that no, that's part of the thing, because I was looking up other people's pictures. I thought maybe, yeah, that's like part of the cover, even though it looks like we did something wrong. I guess it's supposed to look like fire in a star now that I'm actually looking at this. But it just looks like you fucked up your book somehow. Like, it doesn't... Maybe if it were black and this weren't a perfect circle and we had a little corona around the star... The texture just doesn't go with the simplicity of the rest of the design. Yeah, I literally thought I pulled this out of the bookshelf to start reading it. And I was like, oh no! I stained it. Something. I did something. I put something on top of it and it's ruined. And then I was like, but wait, why is it only on that? Is that maybe... I was literally trying to figure out if that circle, that yellow, was somehow a different material so that it interacted differently with something. So, like, that should have been reworked before it was printed. But here's the book, now that I'm actually looking at the cover. Yeah, that's clearly meant to be a star. It just comes off as, oh no, something I put on top of this book fucked it up somehow. So, we're literally just figuring that out now. But yeah.
It's a big book.
This is, I mean, it's, can I pick it up? Move this cloth. It's just not.
There's stuff on the table.
It's not conducive. Yeah, I didn't like this one. I love the Imperial Ratch series, and I love everything else I've read by Leckie so far, but this one, it's just not very good. I really was enjoying it while I was reading it, because I was expecting all of the things in here to come together at the end and just blow my mind. But that never happened. Like...
You can give spoilers. I will forget them entirely by the time I get around to reading these.
Okay, well... But even that's the problem, because I can't really spoil anything, because, like, I don't really care about anything that happened in this story, because, like, there was one part that I was stressed out by, imagining it, but then the story doesn't actually go into it. So should I just summarize the plot?
Might as well. You'll save people who are considering if they should push through.
Okay, yeah. If you haven't bought this, I would not buy it until the price goes down. Get it from your library first. Whatever. I guess I'll just summarize the plot. So the plot is we are on a planet named...
You don't remember the name of the planet?
No, I know it. I don't know how the fuck I'm supposed to pronounce it, though. Let me... Oh, no, that's the city's name. The planet is called... It's 3 A's. I'm pretty sure. The name of the planet comes up pretty late, I'm pretty fucking sure. But this planet has a single city, which is spelled
And despite the narrator clearly being some, like, person who's talking about history and stuff, it's like a memoir or something. I don't even know. What is a memoir?
Usually
Is that
when you're
just
telling the story of your life.
Okay, so not a memoir, but
It's
like
like a
it's kind of the narrator in this. We never find out exactly. Well, we don't even know hints of who they are, but it's like clearly somebody who's talking about history. But we don't even, and we get references because the narrator's talking to us as the readers, because this is like a historical thing that they're writing, and they're clearly anticipating that some of us are not from this planet. But we don't get a basic explanation of how the hell we are supposed to be pronouncing the name of this city. Oioiaa. I have my Sharpie right here, and I will even write it down. And I know everybody reads differently, but the way I read, I am literally like pronouncing the words in my head. So if I don't know how to pronounce a word, and it's something like this, where you can't easily sound it out to get to a basic, a probable pronunciation, then I just have no idea what to do with it. How am I supposed to pronounce this? The closest I've been making is Owaya, but that's not enough syllables.
Let me see.
Uiuaya? Uiua? We don't get any hints throughout the thing. Right there.
I'd probably say Wawaya?
Exactly.
It kind of looks like wee.
We don't know if we're supposed to be pronouncing that. Like, some people in reviews have mentioned that they listened to the audiobook, and in the audiobook it's pronounced like Owaya. But what hint are we given that this O is supposed to be pronounced differently from that O? Where?
It was flying over there.
I'll sacrifice my arm. Bite me, mosquito! So that's, like, the most basic problem. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that, and we never get any hint. Not even in, like, the front or the back of the book. There's not, like, a glossary or anything. Not a hint anywhere. And I'm even double checking right now to make sure there's not. Nope, there isn't, because at the back it's just a cool thing about a charity that donates books or whatever. Something like that. So that's just the first thing I can say. That I don't know how to, my camera is falling over. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the only setting in this book, because everything in this book takes place in this city of mosquito just landed on my nose. Uaya? I have no clue. So every time this word gets said in the book, I'm just left having to pause my actual reading and just stare at the word for a few seconds and break my immersion, because I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that, because there's so many different ways you could pronounce this and we're never given a hint. We could have just had a single scene where one of the Radchai, and I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's not a problem. As I've said in every single other video about this series, it's good to mispronounce Radchai words. I'm not going over it again. But we could have just had a scene where one of the Radchai confidently pronounces the name wrong, and then everybody else has to go. Yes, with a phonetic spelling. And then everybody else either just busts out laughing, depending on the situation, or just sits there in very painfully, pointedly awkward silence until the Radchai gets embarrassed and has to ask how it's pronounced again. That could have happened, but it didn't. And, like, this is, like, one of the first words in the book. Let me read the first sentence. In 1, the 2, city, 3, 4 of 5, insert the name that I don't know how to pronounce, and nobody else seems to know how to pronounce, that we weren't given any hints on how to pronounce. So that's, yeah, okay, I'm supposed to be describing the plot, but I had to stop and just point that out, because, like, if you're clearly making up an alien name for an alien planet, then you need to tell us how to pronounce it. That's just, like, basic decency and clarity. Alright, I folded it so it'll sit upright by itself.
And if you
So-
don't do that, you're just falling into the whole keyboard smash names that people make fun of sci-fi for.
Yeah. Why was Russell T Davies making fun of Doctor Who for being the thing that he liked about Doctor Who? I don't understand why we keep hiring people to run Doctor Who as showrunners when all they do is make fun of the show that they claim they're a fan of. Anyways. Yeah, but this is like why people make fun of Star Wars, which is not how that works. I don't like the meme. I think the meme is really just not grasping the concept of suspension of disbelief, world building and shit. Like there's a quote unquote glup shitto meme about Star Wars character names to make fun of like Chewbacca and stuff, and it's like, okay, but you guys grasp that, like,
There's context around
there's
these characters. No
yeah,
one's actually
the
named.
characters aren't just popping in and out of existence with names. There's anyways, that's neither here nor there for this, but like, I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce a word that comes up a lot that is the whole setting for the whole story. So the plot of the story is we're in the city. I'm just gonna have to call it the city because I don't know how to pronounce it. And there's no hint in the book. And again, like, it's fine to have a name like this that people don't know how to pronounce, but you have to tell us how to pronounce it. Especially because there's so many ways to make that clear in the book. And it would have been so easy to just include it in a scene, really simply. Or, barring that, just putting a note in the front where, like, we have the little acknowledgements or whatever. So the plot is, this is a rogue planet, which means it is a planet that is not orbiting a star, it's not in a solar system, it just kind of wanders around. And we learn this information pretty late into the book, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly. And the main religious, there's a single city on this rogue planet that is under ice because it's an ice planet, because there's no sun, there's no star to keep it warm. So there's a single planet, or single city, this city, under the ice. And they just trade with other planets and stuff for food and stuff. They grow some of theirs, but mostly they just get it through trade. It's a really boring story. I'm sorry to say. Okay, so there's a whole religious thing dedicated to the star that hypothetically the planet hypothetically should be orbiting around. So it's called, you know, the radiant star and stuff. And there's like a temple that's called the temporal location of the radiant star, because they think that's where the hypothetical star will return, and it's pretty much their deity, I don't know how you say that, and stuff like that, which is fine. And I don't even want to describe the plot, it's just kind of fucking boring. It's boring.
If you describe the plot, or if you just give a plot summary of the whole book that you can remember, just give a wording.
Okay.
You'll be
I'll
the
just-
saving grace of anybody who's considering.
Alright. I'll just give I'll stop trying to make it detailed. Okay, so there's a temple that worships this absent star, the radiant star the book is named for, and there's like 2 current factions of this religion who don't like each other, and they're just kind of having political fights all the fucking time, and these factions are run by supercharged HOAs, and where they were. Maybe that was just one of them. Doesn't really matter. Anyways, a thing that used to happen at this temple but doesn't really happen anymore and hasn't happened for like 100 years by the time the story starts is people becoming saints. There's like there's a verb in the real world for becoming a saint, but I don't remember what it is. And the way you become a saint for this temple is, this might even be in the front cover summary, which I didn't read. Okay. That is explained in the thingy at the start of the book, but I didn't read that because I wanted to just go into it. Anyways, you become a saint. It doesn't really matter, but you just become a living mummy. You starve yourself to death through ritual fasting, and then you drink some embalming fluid, and you become a mummy that's frozen in place, preferably sitting, and then you are displayed in the temple, and you are still considered legally alive, and you are waiting the return of the radiant star. And it's not as interesting as it sounds, unfortunately. And a whole plot is that some rich dude who owns a big fucking company that has like a monopoly on construction jobs in this single city on the planet, he's old, and he's decided he wants to be a saint, because he's like, oh yeah, you can't really take money with you when you die, so I may as well become immortal and look good while doing it, because saints are revered, obviously. People make pilgrimages and stuff like that. It's really boring, and it doesn't really amount to anything. So this dude decides he's going to become a saint. He doesn't tell his son, who is his inheritor, that he's going to do this. He just like springs it on him and blah blah blah, and disinherits him in exchange for, like, in turn for just giving everything to his grandchild that his son was forced to have off screen. It's not gone into, but I don't really care about any of these characters, unfortunately, as I'm gonna just keep saying. And then that's the one aspect of all of this stuff. So this dude, the son of this dude who's decided he's gonna become a saint, and all that crap, and him, the son, and his consort are, well, not here so much, mostly him, doing legal shit to get around that, and not telling his consort he's doing that, which it just means spouse. I'm not sure why they're using the word consort. It's like legally like your spouse. It's not like you're cheating or anything.
And it's not like they're a side piece or anything.
Yeah, that's like your main, that's just your spouse, but they call them consorts. And his consort is non-binary and uses the pronouns see here, which I think is how you pronounce them, or Sihir, Siehir. I've seen multiple people, this is not an issue of pronunciation like this, multiple people pronounce them different ways, it just depends on whoever is using them, so there's no correct pronunciation. It's
except
literally
for how the person tells you to pronounce.
Yeah, they're literally pronounced however the person who is using them tells you they're pronounced. We're looking it up, just like a basic one, I guess. But anyways, I pronounce them Sihir. That's my guess.
Now, see, yeah.
To how to pronounce. In today's video, we'll be focusing on
I don't think we can play that while we're doing this, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Ow. Smacking my finger on the table. Anyways, dude, I'm not going to tell you any of their names, because they don't really matter. And that would make it more confusing for you to try and follow along. So this dude, the son of the dude who's going to become a saint. Hi, that was so cute. Hello, you just got a bath. Your face is so cute. The dude is doing all this, like, underhanded legal shit. His father has to fast and drink some psychedelic stuff to have visions of the radiant star for a few weeks to prepare for becoming a saint, where you literally are starving yourself to death and meditating the whole time. And his son breaks into the fucking house that he has been kicked out of. He's a fully grown adult, I should say. He has his own place. But he's breaking into his father's house while he's in this drugged state, and tricks him, like, after hours of, like, maybe a single hour, but just constantly harassing and badgering him to sign a paper that releases everything back to him, the son, with some shitty lawyer who knows this is not fucking legal, because it's literally not a legal document, but he's pretending it is, and hoping nobody looks closely enough. And then immediately fires everybody in the house, including all the people who were supposed to be taking care of his father during all this. We're just going through this plot like one faction thingy at a time. It's easier that way. So, like, all the housekeepers and shit for this giant mansion get fired, except for like 3 people or something. And then, including all the people who are supposed to be making sure his father's not, like, actually starving to death. You're supposed to be getting, like, water and shit and stuff like that. And so the old man, who's, like, at this point just completely drugged and not aware of reality yet anymore, is just left to, like, rot while he's hallucinating and all of this shit and actively starving to death, and has no idea what's going on anymore. And then, like, the servants that were left are just stealing all of the shit from the house, including some of the psychedelic drug that you're supposed to only use if you're doing this ritual thingy, which is also super illegal, and just all of this shit. And then this dude's friends and stuff don't like him anymore after they find out he was abusing his father like this. All of this crap. His consort, who is from a poor family originally and then is, like, marrying upward and stuff and tries to always be, like, politically correct, like, manner-wise and etiquette and stuff like that. Nobody likes here. Nobody's ever really liked here of the rich people, because they can tell C's just a poor person pretending to be rich. So they just start shunning here. And I will say this is, like, one of the major reasons that my enjoyment of this book started tanking. Okay, this character is non-binary, uses the pronouns C here, but then there's a section of the book where C gets misgendered with both she and her in, like, a single sentence. And we pre-ordered this book. It's brand new. We pre-ordered this. And yet, the final fucking version of the book that ends up in our hands has typos in it, and not just any typos. Typos specifically misgendering the non-binary character. That's plural. We'll get to the other section later. I'm just going character by character instead of chronological order. This is the final version of the book. This isn't the first draft, or at least it's not supposed to be. And just, this isn't supposed to even be the second draft. This should be, like, the 10th draft or something, with all of the editing and stuff that's supposed to go along with traditional publishing. Like, this is by Orbit something. Yeah, it's right there on the side. It's by Orbit. This is traditionally published, supposed to have professional editors, and just, like, that's this. Okay, to summarize, what is the point in traditional publishing if the end fucking book still has these really blatant issues and errors that should have been edited out long before this point, but weren't? Why are we paying so much money for quote-unquote professional publishing if it's not actually being edited properly? Because Leckie, the author, did personally apologize for the typos, because I was worried. I posted online that I was worried that this meant that this non-binary character had originally been a binary woman and was only later made non-binary. But, and like he said, oh no. C's always been non-binary. That was just my problem because I'm so used to typing she, her instead. And I didn't catch that in the editing, and my proofreader or whatever didn't catch it either. But it's like, okay, thank you for apologizing, but also, you can't see all of my gestures I'm making. I'm waving my arms everywhere, so just imagine that. Why was this traditionally published if you have to be the one? Just like, what? It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Why are we? It's just,
As that one video was saying, it used to be the thing that you could give your manuscript without any professional editing to a traditional publisher, and they would help you edit the entire thing. That's what it used to be.
They're talking like 1800s, why men could write so many books because their wives were editing their books and shit. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason like so many things are even remotely readable. Mm-hmm. But
but the person in the video that you were in here for was talking about how like it was only just a few decades ago that people were just regularly sending just their whatever pretty much final draft of their manuscript to traditional publishings, and traditional publishers would provide.
This is a video I was not here for, so this is news to me.
Yeah, and now that all these traditional publishing houses care even less about quality, so they only care about profit, that they're just reducing their editing teams and the editing services they offer, and now they want people to have completely and utterly finished and polished things before they even hand it to them, and then they don't do anything. Just like with fucking Kana. If it's popular, or from a popular person, they're not going to edit it because they know they don't have to. People will still spend their money up until the point that people stop spending our money on these things.
Mm-hmm. Like, at this point, we're not pre-ordering books anymore because they might just come out unedited. And like I said, this is the first time I read this. I was reading this in my bed before falling asleep, so it's not like I'm fully awake either. And these aren't like just simple typos. These are specifically typos of the non-binary character's pronouns. And C's like a side character too. And just so why are we paying this much for traditional publishing for books that aren't actually being professionally edited? Like, it's nice that Leckie apologized, but
she shouldn't
it should have been fixed before the book ended up in my hands. And this isn't even the only instance, because there's another one later where another non-binary character gets misgendered. And it only happens to the non-binary characters. So now, unfortunately, I'm aware of what Leckie thinks the binary gender of these characters is. Anyways, also, you can't see it, but we got a solid wood scratching post for the cats, and one of them is playing with it right now. There's strings attached to the top of it, and they have a hole poked through the top, specifically for cats to poke their paws through, and they enjoy doing that. That's why we were laughing, if you could hear that at all. Okay, but anyways, back to the story of this dude, whose name I'm not even going to bother to tell you, and his consort, whose name I'm also not going to bother to tell you. But his consort gets misgendered in the story, or not in the story, just by the text, the author, the editor. Even though it's supposed to be professionally published, professionally edited, that's why it costs so much money. But as we've seen with the Murderbot Diaries, a book costing a lot of money to buy doesn't say jack shit about the quality in it. Most Leckie stories are pretty goddamn good. This one, not so much. And this misgendering of the non-binary characters, and only the non-binary characters, really fucking stands out. And is like the first problem I have with this book. Like, alright, I'll continue. So anyways, these two are they just become social pariahs among the other rich people, because the dude fucked up, made himself look really goddamn bad by, like, having to be outed as abusing his elderly father, who was going to become a saint, which is, like, a huge fucking deal, because it hasn't happened in, like, 100+ years, because nobody has wanted to volunteer for this ritual, even though it brings you all this honor and stuff, and they don't force anybody to do it. It's volunteer only. So, like, this is a huge deal. And now this dude gets outed as fucking lying his way into the house, abusing this old man who literally doesn't even know what reality is anymore, and stealing all this shit and just allowing all this shit to happen, sneaking his way into, like, council meetings for the city that he's not actually supposed to be at, all of this shit. And then everybody assumes that his consort was in on all of this, which C wasn't. But also, C is still standing by him, which, you know, means, oh, so you don't actually have a problem with that? Well, fuck you too. Correctly. And then C is like, oh my gosh. You know, I just had to run around all day trying to find lunch for this dude, and then I'm clearly crying when he gets home, and he doesn't give a single fuck that I'm crying. He just wants his dinner or whatever. Does he even give a fuck about me? And then C goes off to I'm just gonna call it a nunnery. Absolutely not the correct term at all.
Convent?
No, not even remotely. It's a whole thing. We'll just say she just goes off. See, I'm misgendering here by accident because I'm talking out loud. And I'm trying to think of the other character's name at the same time. But C goes off to this lady, whose name I'm not going to bother to tell you. I'm not telling you any of their names. Goes off to see this lady and say, hey, I'm having religious troubles. Can I stay here and meditate for a bit, like a week or so? And then this lady, she's like, oh, sure, that'll make me look good, I guess. I don't care. Whatever. And yeah, then the story ends with this person, this non-binary person, just going back to her husband. Like, okay, then what, like, we got...
No conclusion?
Yeah, no actual follow-through on the, oh damn, I'm actually putting like 200% into this relationship, and he's giving me back like 0.5. He barely even smiles at me, to just going back to him. Like it's an afterthought. And it's like, okay, so why the fuck should I care? Why should I care about this relationship at all if it's not actually gonna change? And like, he doesn't even become a better person, demonstrably, at all. And it's just like, okay, so, and I'll get into it later, but I'm just going through these quote-unquote faction by faction, important factions by important factions. So we're just getting those two out of the way first. So that's their whole little progress thing. Dude gets disinherited, gets pissy about it, breaks into his father's house, abuses him, does legal bullshit, tricks everybody into thinking he's actually not disinherited, all that shit. And then they're just still together by the end. And like, nothing has fundamentally changed about their relationship. And I just don't understand what the point of that was. 'Cause it's not even making a statement about like how abusers will just pull you back in. It's Like, the fact that they get back together is like an offhand comment by the narrator, like it's nothing. And it's like, okay, then why? See, while I was reading through this book, it was entertaining. But because I was expecting all of these things to come together and have a really bombastic ending, and that's what I was looking forward to. Cause I just finished reading The Rights of the Starling or Shield of Sparrows. I don't actually know what that series is called. It's 2 books. But like, the books themselves, fine. The ending is fucking amazing every single time. Twice now, I say every single time as though it's more than 2, but it's just 2 of them. But the endings are fantastic and hilarious. I was expecting a good ending that would pull everything together, because that's usually how Anne Leckie stories go. We got a lot of ups and downs. And by downs, I mean just calm. And then shit's happening again. And then, oh my gosh, you want to throw the book across the room because it's so good. I'm talking about Ancillary Justice right now. This one doesn't have any of that. Like, the ending is just nothing. It doesn't justify itself or anything that came before it. And as I've said multiple times about my other videos, mostly criticizing the Murderbot Diaries, as I've pointed out, the ending makes or breaks your story. If you stick the landing, you got a good fucking story. If you have like a mediocre or even great story with an absolute garbage fire of an ending, you've ruined everything that came before it retroactively. As I think we've used Game of Thrones as an example, because...
And now we can include Stranger Things.
Yeah, we didn't actually watch Game of Thrones, and everybody was raving about Stranger Things, and we watched a few episodes, and it was boring as fuck. But apparently the ending of both of those things is just terrible, and everybody hates it. And now nobody talks about it anymore. Like, I know people have written essays about how Game of Thrones, the TV show, just disappeared, because
it lost all of its cultural momentum by imploding at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, I was enjoying the book while I was reading it. Not the way I enjoyed hello, Mr. Lupin. You gonna come over? You wanna look at the camera? Here, look. Stick your little face right here. He might poke the phone. Look, stick your face right here. You know if he's just gonna sit on the book. Anyways, continue staring at the name I don't know how to pronounce. I was enjoying the book enough to continue reading, but not like the way I enjoy reading Ancillary Justice, or any of the other 3 books in that trilogy, or even the other standalones in this series, because this is part of the Imperial Ratch series, but it's a standalone within the series. Except the thing about the other standalones is, yeah, they're standalone, but also they do contribute to the wider universe. You benefit from reading them along with the other things in the series because they are continuing plot threads. Like, they're fully explained within their story, so you don't need to, but you're better off for it because you're getting more information about how all of this shit works. And I was waiting for the ending of this to, pull something like that and recontextualize things again. If you've read Provenance, you know what happens in there, and it's delightful. But this doesn't do anything like that, even though that's what I was waiting for. And so when we get to the end of the story and nothing like that has happened, it's just kind of like, okay, what was the point of that? So we got through one faction of dude who wanted to inherit the construction company and his spouse. They're out of the way. So now there's 3, we'll call them 3 factions. So now we're going to talk about dude and his Radchai employer person thing. Anyways, this dude is raised in a religious thingy by itself. It's like an organized religious thingamajig. Let me get a drink. No, it's not an orphanage. Hold on. Let me get a drink. That cat looks so fucking... She's sitting in the bin. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
Like, recently, like, look at her. She made it look even more hilarious.
Yes, she did.
She's using it as an armrest. Hi, cutie cat. Okay. This dude, I'm not telling you anybody's names because it would just make it more confusing to follow. He grows up in this institution thingamajiggy where it's run by, like, I guess rivals to the temple, but not, like, officially. Like, they're politically rivals, not, like, officially or anything. But they have visions and stuff, and they give religious stuff. Let me get a drink. I'm getting out of breath from talking for 40 minutes. You're not supposed to drink cold things while talking. Oh well. I'm not going to explain the details. Details don't really matter. But anyways, he was born to the, like, leader, semi-leader, daughter of the leader. He was born to the leader of this place as explicitly to be a slave, to be sent off to some other planet where she'd borrowed a bunch of money and promised because this institution is famous for, like, training male servants and stuff. So she went off planet, came back pregnant, said, yeah, and with a bunch of shit and money and stuff, and says, yeah, I got all this by promising to send off one of our trained boys to be a servant, meaning slave, because they're literally being traded as property. And yeah, well, obviously we can't give them one of our actual trained boys, so I just got pregnant. We'll just train this one. They won't know the fucking difference. Let me get a drink.
That already sounds like a stupid ass plot.
Just hold on. And, yeah, so this kid is raised, here, and all of the adults know that he's going to be sent off planet to be some random person's slave, just as, like, a loan that's being paid back 18 fucking years later, because 18 plus years later, because you have to go into cryo sleep to get to this other place. Don't claw the book, okay? That's my finger. You can sit on it, but don't claw it. Good boy. He's perching on the book. You're so cute. Anyways, he gets raised until he's 18, finds out, oh, they literally are gonna ship me off planet, and also literally never gave a fuck about me, so he tries to run away, gets caught off screen, gets shoved into a cryo sleep pod to be sent off planet. And this was like 30 years ago by the time the story takes place. And his pod, where he's unconscious, never actually got off planet, because that's when the Rad Giant arrived to colonize the planet. And did so successfully. And then a bunch of warehouses by the docks just never got emptied, so his cryopod literally just sat there for like 30 fucking years. And nobody did anything with it. And finally he got thawed back out by the Rad Chai, because the mayor's cousin has been sent, because the cousin needs medical care and needs a caregiver and stuff, so the Rad Chai decided to thaw out this 18-year-old in a cryosleep pod to be her caregiver, because she's catatonic and all this stuff, and nobody knows what happened to her, and it's really mysterious. Never gets explained in the story, and it's like... The problem with this story is there's too many characters and not enough characterization, like, and not even in a way that, like, the world itself is the main character. Like, I like stories. They're stories where the setting itself is the main character, so to speak, and the other characters are just kind of passing through. Those are fine. But this is like trying to have it both ways, and it just doesn't work. Because I don't care about any of the characters, because we're not allowed to know deeply about any of these characters enough to really care for them. But then the setting itself also absolutely is not deep enough for us to care about it for the sake of the setting. So it's just kind of the worst of both worlds. And it's really disappointing. Anyways, so the Radchai thaw this kid out to be a caretaker for a random comatose Radchai lady that nobody knows what happened. Blah blah blah. Nothing really happens with them. Eventually, he gets kidnapped again by his original mom at the place that raises slaves and stuff, and then gets locked in a room. And then Radchai lady and one of the ancillaries sent with the Radchai. You know what? It can have its name acknowledged. This is Justice of Albus, the only character in this review who can have a name. Thank you, Mr. Lupin. You gonna sniff the wood? Can I stick it over here? You wanna sniff it? Be on camera? There's Mr. Lupin's little face. No, don't claw it. I see that little face. You can use it as a pillow. Anyways, he gets locked in a room, off screen pretty much, and then apparently is locked in there for like 2 weeks or something, mostly off screen, and is like almost starving to death, entirely off screen, with time jumps that don't feel like they happen. I'll get into all of that after I get through the faction summaries. And then eventually gets rescued by comatose Radchai lady and Justice of Albus. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not important. There's no depth to these characters. We could have had something, like, say if this story had focused on, like, maybe 2 or 3 of these characters instead of, like, 7 of them. I'm not even going to talk about the Radchai mayor and shit, because she's even less important than these people that I am talking about. But she is there, stealing screen time for no reason. Yeah, so dude gets locked in a room, almost starves to death, tries to eat. No, I think he does succeed in eating some rats. And then we're supposed to pretend that this made all the rats actually go extinct because people ate them all. I don't think that's how rats work. Pretty sure they can reproduce fast enough to avoid being killed and eaten by humans, especially because we know there are caves and empty rooms where people don't go.
In the whole ass city?
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't make sense. That's not how it works. Theoretically, we could say, well, maybe the narrator's lying about that, but we're not given any reason to believe that. So, no, not how an unreliable narrator works. Because this narrator clearly has personality and is making decisions, but also, that's not how storytelling works. Narrator tells us that all the rats went extinct because people ate them all. We have to believe that. Otherwise, we may as well not be talking about the story at all, because we could just say, well, the narrator just made all of that up. Not how storytelling works anyways. And then that's pretty much it. He gets broken out of the room that he was in off screen or during time skips, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else happens with these two. And third faction. So these characters are all non-binary and use they, them for religious purposes, because you leave behind your life from before you became, they call them savants, savant. I think it's pronounced savant, because it's like French or something. I'm just going to say it's savant, because it's easier to say. They're savants of the temple of the radiant star, the thing's named after, guarding the location where the star is supposed to return to someday, where all the saints, aka the mummified people, are. and there's two people in this convent, whatever, temple exists as a word. There's two people in the temple who are just kind of, well, one of them gets promoted to the head temple person thingy and starts just making life annoying for this one savant who was getting pretty famous because they're very poetic and stuff, and everybody comes to them for like visions and stuff and advice, and they're really good at being poetic and sounding really deep and giving actual advice that fits with the religion's teachings and stuff, but is also applicable to daily life. So they're super famous, and the person who's now in charge and just got promoted doesn't fucking like that, because they're dumb, I guess. Like, they're literally making the temple so much fucking money from donations and stuff like that. But they're mad about it, so they say, no, you can't have your cell phone while you're working, because I know you use your cell phone to write down the cool poetical thoughts you have, which they just call visions. And that means you're not actually cleaning the room. You're thinking about your cell phone. They don't call it a cell phone. They call it a handheld, but it's a cell phone. And it's funnier to frame it this way. So they just start doing stuff and being mean to the savant. And the savant, eventually, they just keep yelling at them for everything and trick them into, like, agreeing that the Radiant Star wanted that old man who owns a construction company to be a saint. And then stuff goes wrong with that I don't really need to tell you about. Alright, I guess tell you. The dude accidentally dies before he becomes a saint, like, during a parade, because he got starved to death and jostled around because there was a riot, and all this stuff we're going to get into later because I'm just going through the factions, but yeah. So then this person, the savant, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I don't care. I know. Yeah, it's like French or something, but this is much easier to just say. So this person starts doubting their original vision that they thought was saying that, yeah, that dude, the Radiant Star itself wants him to become a saint, and they're like, shit, fuck, I fucked up. You were kind of pressuring me, so maybe I interpreted the vision wrong. What if he wasn't supposed to be a saint? And then blah, 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 just kept getting yelled at and was like, wait, no, shit, maybe I'm supposed to be the saint. Oh, fuck, am I supposed to become a saint? And then they decide to become a saint, but they have to do it in secret because they asked for permission, but were denied because the person in charge is bad at their job. Like, they're really bad at their job. So then they have to become a saint in secret by fasting, aka starving in secret, and then pass out and go to the hospital, and just keep doing that. And eventually they do succeed in becoming a saint by sneaking into the temple while everybody's rioting outside, and they sit down and they drink the embalming fluid and become a saint. Nothing much to say there. Nothing. It's really boring, and I don't actually care. Unfortunately. And, okay, so that's like the three factions pretty much. So the plot involving these people is that there's some weird little cute alien thingies up on the surface of the planet that for, I guess, thousands of years or whatever, have been slowly evolving the ability to eat the metal of the space docks, like, so slowly over time that nobody ever noticed, because it's like an ice fucking planet and there's not much food up there. So these things have just been evolving to just eat through the metal somehow, but in a way that nobody notices. It doesn't really make sense. We're not actually explained exactly how they're going about this, that nobody's noticing this. But eventually the whole thingy breaks down so that they can't get shit up there and can't bring things down. And before that happened, they'd stopped getting in shipments because, you know, the whole Radchai Civil War thing is going on, so space gates are closed. So nobody's sending supplies, even though, whatever.
Even
So
though they
there's
import all their crops.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they import pretty much all of their food. The Radchai mayor had started noticing that nothing was arriving and that they haven't gotten any news, by they I mean plural, haven't gotten any news from Radchai Space in like a month, which is really fucking weird. So she starts going, fuck. We're literally trapped under ice and don't have farms here. So, let's just start growing Skell, which is a Radchai plant that's like the most basic food ever. Has all the stuff. That's what I was thinking, but apparently not. It's apparently like an algae or something. I think it should have just been duckweed. I don't know if it. I headcanon that it's duckweed, space duckweed, but I guess it's not, because Leckie did post a recipe for peas and pucks, but it involved like seaweed instead of duckweed, so it's not duckweed. Anyways, it's called Skell. It's like the most basic food that all you gotta do to grow it is like stick some existing in water and it'll spread, and it's bioengineered to have like all the nutrients you need pretty much, and it's always free in Radchai Space to literally everybody that's a citizen, because you get murdered if you're not a citizen. And it's always free, daily rations for everybody, all that stuff. So the mayor's like, this could go really fucking bad, really fucking fast. So in order for people not to starve to death, we're going to start growing Skell in the existing water filtration systems on this city-wide planet-wide city. And because it's a water world, frozen ice world. Let me get a drink. Stuff like that. So they have a whole water filtration system that already involves different plants, bacteria, stuff like that, so that all the city's water can get recycled, cleaned, reused, etc. They also pull in some, I think, from the oceans outside them that are close enough to the core of the planet to be liquidy. They do fish outside the city. They do fish worms and stuff like that, but not like enough to feed the whole place. So they start growing Skell in the existing water filtration system, and then the narrator breaks the story to say, hey, by the way, there's this thing on this planet that's called sea rot. Nobody really knows what it is. It might be an animal, might be a plant. Maybe it's like a microbiome or microbe, something like that. But usually it's not actually a problem in the water filtration system because everything else in there balances it out. So anytime some does get in, it's just found on a little plant, immediately get chucked in the garbage and nothing goes wrong. Then they introduce Skell, which has a shit ton of nutrients baked into it, and all of a sudden this sea rot, with access to all those nutrients from Skell, can just go fucking crazy and take over the whole thing, kill all the plants, including most of the Skell. And the city at this point, and again, this is the major fucking problem and why I didn't enjoy this book by the time I got to the end, and was slowly getting more annoyed as I went through. Like, the whole thing is like off-screen time skips of important things happening in the city, but we don't get to see them. We're just told about them afterward, and it's in a really abrupt way that makes it so you can't actually keep track of what's going on, and it doesn't fucking, quote-unquote, feel real. Obviously, it's a book, but, like, I can't suspend my disbelief to keep up with what's happening because it's all happening off-screen. All happening in time skips that are not made clear. Like, I think a day or so has passed. And then I get told, oh, by the way, it's been like 2 months. And I'm like, what do you fucking mean? It's been like 24 hours. We're like the next morning. What do you mean it's been 2 months and everybody in the city is starving to death and there's literally dead bodies all over the fucking street? Like, people are walking skeletons. It's like, no. You did not. You
also,
didn't do anything.
They've only been without fresh supplies for a month. Do they not have enough stockpiles in just basic staples that they...
Rich people were buying most of it.
Okay.
But still, that's, like, just the fact that it's all happening off screen, and, like, the narrator exists as a character. There's no reason they couldn't have actually paused the story again, just like they paused it to tell us about the sea rot and shit, and then not tell us how the fucking water circulation system works, even though I wanted to know that, and they literally say, I won't tell you how this works, although I know there's some of you who will probably say, but I do want to know, but you're probably an outlier. No! I could just tell me. But anyways, the narrator could have just stopped and said, and just gave us the statistics. Just give us the fucking statistics at the very bare minimum, and then say, yeah, by this point people were starving, dead bodies litter the streets, people were eating all the rats to extinction apparently, which I literally cannot fucking believe.
Over the course of years, I could, but just 2 months, all the rats went extinct.
My guess is 2 months. It might be more than that, but the time skips were so abrupt and unpreparable for, like, and it can't even give the excuse that, oh, we're following the rich people around so they don't notice, because, like,
They have
they were literally seeing the effects, and also not how this works when the narrator's literally talking to us. We're not actually following the rich people. We're doing whatever the narrator decides to tell us about, because the narrator is clearly a person with a personality who's making decisions. But beyond that, it's Ann Leckie who wrote this thing. And Ann Leckie chose to make the city is literally starving to death, and the streets have more dead bodies than they do living ones, and people's are walking skeletons, and it's like, what? How did we get here? Like, there's no, like, again, literally the narrator could have just stopped the story to give us the statistics, the bare bones statistics. Blank, 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 character name was living in his mansion where blah, blah, blah. Just throwing money at the problem, getting food, until that doesn't work. Because he has his consort doing all the shit for him. He doesn't give a fuck. C's doing all of it. Meanwhile, blah, 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 outside in the rest of the city, especially the poorer districts, XYZ, it had been XYZ days since food stopped appearing on shelves, or just jacked up the price so much nobody can afford it. We could have just gotten the bare bones statistics of what's happening. And then I could have, An
overview.
Yeah, we could have just been given an overview. Just give us, like, fucking numbers to put to this. And then show us a bit of the personal side and say people were walking skeletons. But we don't get anything like that. We just suddenly go, oh, and people were walking skeletons, by the way, and there's dead bodies all over the street, and it's like, I was like, we kept raising the tension of the idea that something was going to go catastrophically wrong when the skell was introduced into the water circulation thing, and we kept hinting that something's going to go disastrously wrong with the food supply chain, and then it's just not actually shown. We're just told about it afterwards, and it's so fucking jarring and confusing, and it's not good writing.
Telling instead of showing.
Yeah. And, like, there's ways to make that work, but it doesn't fucking work, and it was really fucking jarring to read. See, I was just talking about suspension of disbelief for names and stuff in Star Wars, and this is the part where my suspension of disbelief is broken, because suddenly it's been 2 months, apparently, even though it feels like it should have just been a day, and there's dead bodies all over the street. It's just not good. That's not enjoyable to read. And, like, so I skimmed through Goodreads, and people are like, oh, the topic is really dark, and it's like, it's not, theoretically it's dark, but we're not actually seeing any of these things. We're just getting told about it, and not even told about it in the form of, like, statistics, anything. It's just not good. And then also the savant I was talking about, the one who was famous and who was told to get off their fucking cell phone, they get misgendered through a goddamn typo as him, with he, him pronouns. because we get the sentence, she stared at him in shock, or something like that. She referring to Radchai lady, but the only other goddamn person in the room is the non-binary savant who uses they them pronouns. And it took me a few seconds to read through the sentence a few times and then go, oh, okay. So she somehow knows this person before they became a savant and doesn't know that they've changed pronouns. And then no, that's not, I'm like, oh, okay, that could be interesting. And no, that's not what was happening. It's just the second non-binary character to get misgendered by the author making a typo and misgendering them in one book. 3 typos in this book that I noticed, and they are all using binary pronouns for non-binary characters. And this is a book we pre-ordered. How much did we pay for this?
Don't remember.
You can double check the receipt.
Which is weird.
Wherever you pre-ordered it from.
I don't know.
So this, yeah, 3 typos, all of them misgendering non-binary characters. None of the characters who use binary pronouns get misgendered. It's just the non-binary ones. And this is the finished product that we pre-ordered, paid full price for. And this is traditional publishing. It's not independent publishing. But there's these typos. There's typos in it to begin with, and it's these kinds of typos. And it's just like,
It's $30.
we paid $30 to pre-order this. And it's not a book I'm going to reread ever again. $30 for a book. Then it's got really nothing going for it. Because there are a bunch of non-binary characters in here using different pronouns. We have the savants who use they, them, and just other people, including one person who uses per pronouns, and like PER. But per's not actually important to the plot. That's the grandchild of the dude who decided to become a saint who owns a construction company, dude. And it's just like that none of the characters are deep enough for me to actually care about them, and then the setting just glosses over the important things that we should be getting to see. So it's not character driven. The plot isn't that interesting because it relies entirely upon you caring about these random characters, and there's a bunch more I'm not even gonna bother to bring up. Well, I guess to list them off, we have the mom, leader of the one place, who got pregnant to sell her son. We have the mayor of the city, the Radchai mayor, aka dictator, colonizer, and then her assistant, her cousin, the comatose lady. We have the ship Justice of Albus running around doing stuff. We have a lawyer, shitty dude's lawyer, who appears for a bit, and just stuff like that. And none of the characters are actually in depth enough for me to care about them one way or the other. And then the setting, there's not enough world building here. I don't really give a fuck about this city, even beyond the fact that I don't even know how to pronounce its name. So every time I read it, it's just a mental stumbling block. And then just the plot, it just all gets wrapped up. And I'm waiting for some cool as fuck revelation about the ongoing evolution of the Radchai Civil War. And then it's just, Justice of Albus, who finally left to go get food and was ordered to go get food and news and shit, just comes back and says, hey, by the way, there's a slave rebellion, so I don't have to do what you tell me anymore. And then that's it. And it's like, I couldn't even cheer on that because it was so fucking, like, lackluster. And it's just like, oh, by the way, I'm not your slave anymore. Haha.
But
I'm
why'd you
still,
come back?
because it was forced to leave ancillaries behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing is just really lackluster, forgettable entirely, and just like I said, it was enjoyable reading it, but the
That's when you
enjoyment.
think there's
Hold
gonna
on.
be payoff.
Yeah, the enjoyment was from me anticipating a follow through, the ending coming together, and really making all of this worth it. But then that didn't happen. So, like, there was no payoff. Like, the hints that something was gonna go wrong with the food supply was more tense and suspenseful than the actual problems caused by that, because we didn't actually get to see any of the actual effects. We just got told, oh, people are skeletons. There's dead bodies everywhere. They ate all the rats. And it's like, I don't believe you. Like, genuinely, I don't think you can eat. I don't think it's possible to eat all the rats. Not if you only have your bare hands to catch the rats with when you're starving, and there's places the rats can go that you can't. Like, it was like a whole plot point that the kid who was being raised as a slave, not that he knew that, found a cave that only little kids could fit into. And I'm supposed to believe all of the rats have gone extinct forever because they got eaten. No. Anyways, that's the summary. Any comments on the summary? Because just...
I mean, other than a whole lot of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like she's taken pages from Martha Wells, unfortunately. Of whole lot of words to say a whole lot of nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was extremely fucking disappointing.
Like, commentary on religion?
Not
and
especially.
faith?
Not especially. Like, it's not saying anything new. Not saying anything particularly deep or interesting. Nope.
Doesn't say anything at all.
About what?
Anything.
Oh. No, not really. Besides, like, no. Like, I was looking forward to thinking, oh yeah. But no, it's just not much. Not much. Like, I'm sure it says something, but like, I mean, we know it's saying Anne Leckie isn't thinking about non-binary characters as non-binary enough that they're getting misgendered in the final goddamn product. For a book we're paying to read, what else does it say besides, like, it's not really doing much. Besides, abusing elderly people is bad. But yeah, it's really not. I regret reading it, because everything else I've read by Anne Leckie I really enjoyed, but this one was just really nothing. And the fact that the only typos are of the non-binary characters, specifically getting misgendered, that's just annoying as fuck. That's just extra sexism, and it's like, thank you for apologizing, but also, how did we get to this point? This is the traditionally published book we paid $30 for. This is not an early reader review. This isn't the first draft hot off the printer at 3 a.m. or whatever. This is the published book. You should have not typed those typos to begin with. And if you did type them to begin with in your first draft, because, like, they're like most of the way through the book before we get to there. It's like, oh, so I just don't understand how you get that far into the manuscript, let alone the book, and then make those typos. It's weird.
This is why whenever I actually edit my thing, I plan on just reading the entire thing out loud for me to edit my first draft. Because when you read shit out loud, it's much easier to find the typos than your brain just automatically glazing over the words that you've stared at a million times as you picked out the word choices.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally, if you can't read it out loud, you can literally just change the font, change the background color.
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
So yeah, that's my hour and 15-minute review for Radiant Star by Ann Leckie. Somebody tell me how the fuck I'm supposed to pronounce this name. Because I'm sure I could check Ann Leckie's social media, but I shouldn't have to when it's literally that's the name of the setting. And no hint is given within the story. Or and this is supposed to be standalone, so I shouldn't even have to add the caveat of we haven't even been given hints on how to pronounce these kinds of syllables in the rest of the series, because this is supposed to be standalone.
Freaking Aragon had a pronunciation guide.
Yeah.
Especially because people like me
Kept saying
calling him-
E-Ragon,
Yeah.
because that's how it looks. So...
Oh, you're reading E-Ragon? I'm reading what? Yeah. Isn't that called E-Ragon?
Hello!
No, it's Aragon.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was an interaction I had where I was the one saying E-Ragon.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, email. You pronounce it email, not email.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah. Okay. That's my review. So, I guess if I'm gonna give it stars, I would give it, like, 2 for effort, I guess. But, like, this is not the book I'm never gonna reread this. There's nothing in it worth rereading for. Which I've never said about an Ann Leckie book yet. So this is the first for that. So, yeah. I would say don't buy it until you've read it.
And see if you actually like it.
See if you like
Spend
it.
$30 on it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Bye-bye.